Welcome to the very first episode, Big Derm Energy. Ever wonder what it takes to make, market, and distribute skincare that really delivers? Well, we've been at it for over 5 years, and we can't stop talking about it. And now we're bringing you into those conversations. Join us as we separate the facts from the fads with special guest appearances by our resident dermatology whiz, Dr. Steve Zhu. This is the very first episode of Big Derm Energy, and we're going to take you all the way back to the beginnings. Today, we're joined by co-founders Nick Allen and Dr. Steve. Welcome, guys.
Steven, wonderful intro. Dr. Steve, good to see you. You know, Steven asked me what I thought about calling you Big Derm. What do you think about that?
Makes me marginally uncomfortable, but I'll go with it, so.
Well, maybe not on the first episode, Steve, but, when we get to episode, 10, I could just start mixing it in there.
Well, remember the movie Friday? Hey, Big Derm! you Big Derm?
Yeah, and we got to get a good theme song that, really brings out the BDE of this show.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
I hope my wife never sees this, but we'll go with it. Yeah.
We'll go with it.
I'll block her from the podcast, Steve. Why don't you guys just tell our audience a little bit about yourselves, who you are and your background, and then we'll jump into how you met.
Steve, you want to go first?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm glad I'm Steve, and Steven is Steven, because I'm definitely the more fun one for sure, right? So keeping it informal. So my name is Steve Zhu. I am a board certified dermatologist. I did my training at Harvard Medical School, did my residency at Northwestern in Chicago, and currently have an assistant professorship at Northwestern University, where I do a lot of medical dermatology and see all kinds of patients, from kids to adults. So really love the practice of dermatology, but specifically love the area of how we can make personal care products work better, more effectively for our patients, no matter whether they just want to look or feel a little bit better or dealing with things like acne and other kind of important skin problems.
Thanks, Steve. We definitely appreciate that here. And, for 5 years, when I say we've been having these conversations, right, like we meet every other Friday, and we've definitely come to you with all types of questions. And I think one of the reasons we wanted to really start Big Derm Energy was, we felt like this would be the best way to get those answers and that conversation out there, right? Because a lot of our customers, our guys, they're not talking about these kinds of things, and they need something like this. So we definitely appreciate that you're doing this.
Hey, Steve, I think to really give people an idea of how distinguished you are, can you tell us how many pages are in your CV?
Too many.
Too many pages.
You got to compress the PDF to email it, unfortunately.
It's like 30 pages long of distinguished accolades.
Well, we'll leave a link to it in the description.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. You should, Steven.
How about you, Nick? Do you have that kind of background?
I wasn't quite as strong of a student as Steve was academically. While I had a strong education and went to a good college, I might not have applied myself with such rigor. So yes, I have some accomplishments, but they are not as academic as Steve. I, spent the first part of my career in the Wall Street world, which I'm glad to be done with. And the last, almost 15 years been chasing startups, startup fame and glory. And here we are.
What was your first startup?
My first startup was Sidecar. It was like Lyft and Uber. We were the first rideshare company that let people pick people up in their own cars. And that led to Lyft and UberX, and we battled it out and lost the fundraising race, and the company was sold to GM. So
Well, that's a pretty good sale. So let me ask you the tough question then. After a rideshare company,
yeah.
why did you choose to start a skincare brand? Tell us about how you got it started.
Well, first I'd say, building the rideshare company, I actually did two of them, but those are like traditional venture companies, raise as much money as you can, grow as fast as you can, spend tons of cash. And for some silly reason, I thought building a brand would be easier. But that was sort of secondary. I first got into it. I ended up working at GM and was working on autonomous vehicle commercialization. And I went on a trip kind of around the world to look at GM's, various capabilities in different regions, and was in Korea. Bought my girlfriend at the time a fancy set of Korean skincare products. Wasn't about to go home empty-handed. And, when I got home, I was close to turning 40. I think I was probably like 38 or 39. And I'm 46 now. And I had never, or like maybe washed my face like 2 times. So I did the whole routine with her. It was only 3 steps, but it was awesome. I walked away from that experience being like, why don't I do that? Like, it's like a trip to the spa. I like to indulge. So, what's wrong with me? And as I kind of just thought about it more, I like sort of dug into the category, put my entrepreneur hat on, and, did like, why don't guys do this? So first thing I did, I hopped online, I typed in men's best skincare routines, and, the GQ article pops up, same kind of one that we're in many times. It says, top 10 list. You click on the links, you go to these websites, it's just tiles of products. I didn't know what to buy. I didn't know what, do I want a serum? Do I want to, I didn't know. So I ordered a bunch of stuff, shows up at my house. I opened the boxes. Product's crap, smells disgusting, feels bad on my skin. Don't know what to use, no direction. I was like, oh, that's terrible. So I hopped on the BART. I lived in Oakland at the time. And I went over to Union Square, went into a Macy's, walked in, huge counters everywhere. The place is relatively empty. I walked up to the counter, probably 70-year-old woman, Botoxed out, her face is like this. And I'm like, what do I need? She's like, you need this $450 an ounce La Mer. And I'm like, I think that might be a little out of my price range. So I walked out of there feeling, unsatisfied. I went down the street to a Sephora, and it was holiday time. The place was packed to the gills. There was music pumping. There was a guy on a headset in full makeup doing like a makeup spin class. And I was just like, oh my God. So I was like, this place is not for me. And I walked out of that and I was like, okay, shopping online was overwhelming. Going to Macy's was overwhelming. Going to Sephora was overwhelming. Like, no shit, I don't do this. It's impossible. And then, very soon after doing some research, I discovered Steve on the internet, and he had done a big study on the efficacy of SPF brands or products. And, it really caught my attention, and it was picked up by how many news outlets, Steve? Covered
Too
that?
many.
Too
Again.
many. So I see Steve's name all over as I'm Googling, and I was like, well, this derm is no slouch. He might have the BDE, So I
More
cold
BDE
called
than
him.
that Sephora?
What's that?
More BDE than that Sephora.
Yeah. So I called Steve. I cold called him and left him a voicemail and just said, hey, Dr. Zhu, my name's Nick Allen. I'm a consumer tech entrepreneur from San Francisco. I don't know much about skincare, but, I have an idea I'd love to talk to you about. And to my surprise, Steve called me back.
Well, congrats. And that's why we're here today.
I
So
had, I
that
had
Yeah,
lower bars back then,
yeah.
to like answer
Today,
emails, right?
now,
Yeah,
maybe I wouldn't be so lucky, but
yeah.
we'll
Well, I'm
see.
very, very busy and important, Nick. So you're very fortunate to catch me earlier on in my career
yeah,
where I would answer any phone call I got and, needed the adulation. So
when you were
you're,
vulnerable and open to manipulation.
you're
You need
welcome.
to go back
Exactly.
and
Right.
find that voicemail and see exactly what it said.
Yeah,
So,
but
Well,
pretty funny.
you know
based,
why I answered your emails, not because of like your winning personality or I did Google you and I LinkedIn you because I think one thing that we have to realize about skincare is there are so many products out there, right? And so some of them are good, many of them are not, right? As you sort of experience personally for yourself. The really hard challenge is for our patients to find the ones that are good that work with them, right? And so I've always knew that we can, like as a dermatologist, we can design something really fantastic. But the challenge is in designing and making them. It's getting it out there into the hands of the consumers and the patients that need it. And so, your sort of ride share to skincare story resonated with me before even meeting you because that's really hard. I mean, Sidecar, I actually, used it a few times, was really innovative, right? You kind of spurred on a lot of copycats, right? Now we
yeah,
know Uber and Lyft. And I think just that entire, how do you get a technology, a product to consumers directly is an incredibly difficult endeavor, right? And so that's why I took the call because I felt like you would actually be able to do that. And you have, right? So we can both count ourselves lucky.
yeah, we've come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
So,
first call Steve and I had, I basically just told him about my problem. I was like, this was really hard. I hadn't used this before. I didn't have a lot of experience in skincare and, um, figured that lots of other people, especially guys, were probably in the same boat. So I just, my pitch to Steve was, what would you do if I came into your office and was like, how do I get started? And like,
Yeah.
I don't know a lot, so I don't even know what questions to ask. And I said, could we can we somehow get to what's right for a guy with
Yeah.
simple, straightforward questions? Like, don't ask me what my skin type is because who knows that? Like, nobody knows that,
That's right.
you know?
That's right.
So, like, are there some
Yeah.
plain worded questions where we could, do a quiz and guide the guy through and then basically select for him, take all the thinking away because thinking's bad? You know, I, I don't
Thinking,
know.
thinking, thinking is hard. I agree.
Yeah,
It is hard.
thinking is hard. So, you know, Steve and I basically, I think on the phone came up with the concept of like this personalized like quiz for guys. And then I I think it was a week later, hopped on a plane and flew to Chicago. We had did we have Korean barbecue for dinner and
Yeah.
a beer?
Yeah. This guy Yukaku, I think you paid. I made you.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, you paid. That's right. Yeah. I
And
wasn't
then
about. Yeah.
and then the next day we went to Steve's office and just kind of whiteboarded the concept out. And we were kind of off to the races.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been
It's very
fine
unlike
room.
me to have done that, to be honest, but I'm really glad I did.
Me
Um,
too. Me too.
I,
Because then with Steve on board, I had a real shot, a real story, because
yeah.
these things require a little capital, but you need to put the right people together to go on and get just, a little bit of that seed money.
I'll tell you, if the two of you walked up to me on the street and you both wanted to give me some skincare advice, I know whose advice I'd be taking.
Yeah. It's Nick's. No.
So, Steve, we've had this diagnostic, live.
Mhm.
We've done probably close to 2 million people have
Cool.
taken our diagnostic, and over 70% of people who take our diagnostic tell us they don't have a skincare routine. So they're kind of like Nick. They don't know where to start,
Yeah.
right? So when someone like that comes to you in your dermatology practice, What do you tell them?
Well, it's actually something that doesn't happen that often in my dermatology practice. Like I think my guess is like so many of my male patients have those questions, but they're not ready to ask them. They're not sure, or they're coming in for like a more acute issue, right? They have acne, they have a skin cancer, something else, right? So this is sort of like general skin wellness doesn't really fit into the natural practice of dermatology, even though I've got the knowledge and I can kind of go through it. But I think you're right. I mean, I'm not surprised that 70% don't do anything, but at the end of the day, all guys should, right? Like, I think there's a nice adage, right? Like, what do we spend money on? As we spend money on things that increase pleasure, decrease pain, and makes us look a little younger, right? So when you think about geology, I mean, skincare is healthcare. I believe that a lot. There's definitely a vanity aspect to it, and that's all good, right? Like, we all want to stay, look, and feel our best, right? And like women are naturally taught that, right? Through tribal knowledge, right? From their mothers and aunts and sisters. Guys don't have that, right? Even though we all want to stay looking more youthful, look and feel as good as we are inside and out. And so I think when I think about it, it's not an easy question. It's not like go to this brand, buy this like product. Skin is complicated and managing it requires a system and process. So we want to make as simple as possible, but it's not like some magical cream or tube that you put on once a day and, problem solved, right? You need a really great sunscreen that doesn't cause acne or not oily that you will use every day, right? That you like the smell, right? That feels good on your skin. That's important because most of aging is from UV damage or sun damage. And, you know, let's make it simple for guys, right? Like, if you live in Florida and you work outside, need it every day. If you live in northern Minnesota and you're in an office, probably not, but you go on vacation, right? You do see the sun. Let's make it simple, make it part of the routine. Just do it every day, right? Make it simple. Retinol is the other super ingredient, right? That's what we know clinically helps with, fine wrinkles and lines, right? Helps with collagen, addresses acne as well. That's a problem, very common. So pick a great retinol that you'll use every night, right? In an amount that's tolerable for your skin that you stick with. And then other things are bonuses, right? Like good moisturizer. We have a great one. I'm biased, right? With hyaluronic acid, some antioxidants like niacinamide. But it's not 7 things. It's 2 to 3, and it's a process, and it's consistency. When you do those things, good sun care, retinol, moisturizer, antioxidant, then you can maintain the way you look for more decades than you would without it, right? And at a price point that isn't La Mer, right? You don't need $500 luxury brands with a box more expensive than our products. You need something that can be part of your routine, just like going to the gym, just like talking to your therapist, right? All these kind of things, put skin in there. And I'm really proud of what we've done for guys that don't know where to start, and I think we're making a big impact there.
Sure. So now you guys met, you got the idea, right? Clearly, us guys, we don't know where to start with skincare. We want
Yeah.
something quality that works that we can stick to. It's certainly what attracted me, to the brand. Tell me about the early days. What was it like back then, and what's different now?
Okay. Well, we had to find a manufacturer to start, and this was a little bit of an interesting story, but a bumpy ride. But we ended up making it out on the other side. We found a co-man, they call them, in Detroit, a city I love. I did used to work for GM, as I said, so got to give a shout out. So we found a co-man. I will leave this co-man nameless. And I flew out there. We had for the initial kickoff of making these products. And Steve was on video because he wasn't able to be there, but there was we were on a big conference table. Steve was on video. Cosmetic chemist was there. And we were talking about what we were going to do. And the cosmetic chemist there said to me, "What are your favorite brands?" And I was like, I don't really have favorite brands because I don't really do this that much. I had this Sawashu stuff from Korea that was great. And, all my bougie friends used Aesop. And she laughed and Steve laughed a little bit. And I was like, what's so funny? And she's like, Aesop's a great brand, but like, there's nothing in there. It just smells good and they have a great brand. And I'm like, well, what do you mean nothing's in there? She's like, Dr. Steve and I are giving you the high-powered shit with all the good ingredients that actually active ingredients that actually do something for your skin. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. But I didn't know this yet. I didn't know the difference between what an active ingredient and inactive ingredient was and what was like, well-marketed skincare versus like, Derm-Grade with the BDE. And so we start, doing our first round of stuff, like the first iterations of the different formulas and products, and I take them home and I use them for the first time. And I wake up in the morning and I am not exaggerating. After like 2 days, I'm like, my skin has never felt like this in my life. And I was like, wow, I was blown away. So I called Steve and I was like, Steve, what is in here? He's like, well, hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, retinols, like the real stuff. So I send some samples to my bougie friends who use Aesop. And 2 of them wrote checks. They were like, this is the best damn eye cream I've ever used in my life because it actually works. And that was like the big discovery, one of the big discoveries for me. I thought, to be honest, like, hey, we're just going to make it simpler and, easier for a guy to just get into a routine. What I didn't quite grasp until that moment was the difference between Derm-Grade and regular. And the difference is huge. It's like, I'm like, derm or don't bother at this point, Wouldn't you say, Steve?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think much choice, much confusion, right, in the field. And I think one of the things I'm proud of for Geologie is we're bringing the kind of things that are in the dermatologist like cabinet, right, that you buy, at high prices, right, from us directly to, things that work a lot better than what you get at the drugstore or just a random online store, right? And so being able to think about efficacy and product performance and actives and that sort of close relationship we have between the clinical and the chemist, right? And put that behind a brand, right? As well as an outreach that can get it there. That's what's special, I think, about Geologie, right? You're not like thinking about that from a perspective around people can buy a product because the marketing's cool and the packaging is nice. But I think we've got such great, reliability and repeat purchases because it works, right? It demonstrates what we say it will do. And that's actually kind of rare in our field.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years into this or 6 years into this, whatever it is, I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is it's really hard if you don't know ingredients and products well. It's really hard to break through the noise because so many brands are full of it. Like it's hard to understand who's good and who's really not. I mean, it's why we started out with trials, like getting people to, low barrier to entry, just try our stuff. We know you're going to like it so that people aren't shelling out a whole bunch of money just to give it a try, and it's not like, direct to consumer here. It's not like we have a showroom or a store or a counter where people can come up and feel the products and feel the difference. The trials have come with its own challenges and things like that. But, I think our initial idea was, let's make this really accessible because it felt very unaccessible to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's people will go and they'll buy like a 5, 10 or $15 thing, give it a try, not work, and then it ends up in your bathroom drawer for 7 years until you throw
Yeah.
it out when you move, right? And there's very few people that are gonna go to that Macy's and drop $500 on La Mer, which, is probably going the same direction as that $5 tube. I think it's just kind of critical, for us to introduce to the market, a product that works, but that is approachable, right? And I think that enables the engagement and a little bit of time. And I think one of the things Geologie does, I think I'm so proud of, is just like the education piece, right? Just sort of saying this is not going to be an overnight success, but you don't have to wait 10 years either. So I think that ultimately we find that sweet spot, manage those expectations, and then give customers and our patients sort of this sort of consistent product that is as simple as it can be, that can deliver the results that people are looking for better skin health.
Steve, you just said 2 words, and we've probably said the third word many times, but we've tested a million different headlines on our website. Steven, what are the 3 headlines on the website that beat all other words?
Simple, personalized results.
Sometimes effective works better than personalized.
Yeah. Or effective and results, they kind of go together. And, one thing that I find so rewarding about what we do, and this is something I never thought of when we first started, because it was all about how to make it accessible, right? First, but it's seeing those results. It's seeing the reviews come in. And Steve, you probably get this firsthand as a dermatologist, right? You have patients coming back to you and you're seeing their progress, right? But for us, people are taking the quiz online. Many of them submit photos of what they look like before, but not everyone. And then they're dark to us as customers, right? A lot of times until that review comes in 45 days later. And it's definitely been one of the most rewarding things to see people go through that transformation, to find a routine, to find that confidence, to find that Big Derm energy. Right. And I think that's definitely, like, as we look forward, right, to our future, that's something that we wanted to bring more of that to people. We wanted to bring more of the education, more of the tips. How do we get them to find the results and find that themselves, right? Because it is rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem with skincare, and I've had so many patients that come to me with like a CVS plastic bag, and they've got like Aesop, Murad, store brand, and then just like, and I, my heart breaks for those individuals, right? Because I think that ultimately, if you had a solution and a process that was able to get you through and understand your skin concerns and your skin type, which our diagnostic does really quickly, and then like less than like 3 minutes. So it's not like a, entire audit, and then get you a regimen that's as simple as possible, right? That does the job. It saves so much time and money and energy and frustration, right? And I think about the guys that just kind of give up, right? Like,
Yeah.
Nick's pretty persistent dude, so that's good. But like most of us feel like this just doesn't work. I don't care, right? Forget it.
We hear it
And
all the time.
yeah. And I think with Geologie, I mean, I think I'm proud of the fact that, like, we get it right, like 99 times out of 100, right? Finding that right solution for you. But because we think about personalization, we can tweak, right? We can change that retinol strength. Like we can sort of adapt and make sure that it's a, hand in glove fit. And I think that's really important. Like we do that a lot in medicine, right? This medicine might be great for, this patient, but not the right one for the other one, even if they have the same condition, right? And I think thinking that everybody's skin is the same is ridiculous, right? And you live in different places, you have different genetics, different kind of, regimens and processes. So I think that's the key, finding that ability to deliver personalized care that's simple and effective, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't require complex, expensive stuff,
Yeah. Keeping it easy is so key, especially for the male audience.
So we know where Big Derm Energy might be going next, right? We want to be able to have these conversations openly, with our audience, right? We want to give them tips, but I think we want to show them what else is behind the brand, right? How we work with creators, how we get that to the market, how we develop products. We definitely want to do a lot around tips, oily skin and aging and sun protection, how important it is, because these are the things we've learned over the years, right? But where is Geologie going next outside of Big Derm Energy?
I'll take this one. I think the biggest thing for us here now, and I think a lot of brands are headed this way. We started DTC, direct to consumer only. We moved on to Amazon, and then the next phase is rolling out distribution in brick and mortar. We have a killer lineup coming to Target next year. It is really strong. The new packaging is amazing. The price point is going to beat out CeraVe and many of our customers. So I'm really, really pumped for that. We have a bunch of other, retail rollouts coming. So for us, it's just making it even more accessible, being where the shopper is, and, spreading that energy, the love, and the product.
Excellent. Steve, thank you for joining us on this very first episode. We hope to have you on as a guest as often as we possibly can. Nick, I'm sure we will see your face pretty much every episode.
Yeah, I'll be on here a lot.
Forward. But this is super exciting that we're finally getting this conversation out there, and I couldn't be happier to have the two of you on the first episode to tell the story.
Awesome to be here. Thanks.
Thanks,
All right.
Steven.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.